Hello and welcome to the follow-up. I don't even remember what episode we're on at this point.
Episode blah, 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 blah,
Blah,
blah.
blah, 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 but we're still in season 1. I am Katie, your host with Robin Banks Entertainment, along with my sidekick.
I'm José Johnson.
Apparently, I talk too much, so I'm gonna try to give a little bit more space.
That's okay. I don't get paid by the word.
It's true. You don't. But the follow-up, we are a podcast where we follow up on events we've been a part of, events we've seen, in musicians, the whole shebang. It could be any event, could be a wedding. And this episode in particular is about an award show. Specifically, the Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame award show, which was this past week. So I'm kind of on a high from it, which is...
Me too.
I kind of brought Brandon in very last minute. This is Brandon Valentine, everybody. He is the executive director of the Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame and the founder. And you've pretty much... When did you establish this?
Yeah, I think it was 2019, so 6 years in at the moment.
Yeah, so it was our 6th annual show.
That's right, yep.
It's kind of crazy because I've been to every show, but literally started right before the pandemic.
Yes,
so you
correct,
you literally started the show and then were
Yep.
thrown
That's
a
100%.
curveball.
Yeah, I think the first show was like January of 2020, and we all know, what happened 2 months after that. And
Gosh,
that affected then the next year. We actually
did.
moved it to the summer.
you did.
So yeah, wild stuff.
I remember that. So okay, getting to know Brandon. This is a big part for me. I've been following what you've been doing since you started it. I was very inspired. I assume you just felt like, Central Pennsylvania was missing something.
Right. Yeah, that's 100% accurate. I mean, I think that's really it. I always thought kind of an unmet need for recognition, really, is there's such a rich musical heritage from the area, from the past to, at that point, I think our ballot was like 10 or 15 people. We were like,
Right.
we know, the big names,
Yeah.
the Taylor Swifts, the Fuels, Alive,
Yeah.
Breaky Benjamin, Hailstorm, some of those, and it has grown exponentially from there. But yes, knowing that the past was the focus is one part of it. We wanted to shine a light on those who kind of,
Laid the path.
led the way. That's right, and then mixed it with where's the recognition for the current scene, right?
Yeah.
At that point, I think the only thing, at least that I was aware of, was there was a local magazine that would give out one award, which would be the best local band, and there's hundreds, if not thousands, that we could get drill down more on into categories and provide some recognition where it's truly deserved. So the focus was always about just recognizing who came from the area and who's current in the area.
Okay, so what I want to know is where you're from, number one.
Sure.
Your background in music.
Yep.
And what inspired you to do this? Well, you kind of just answered that for me, but your background in music.
Yeah. I guess the road leading up to it, I guess.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, born and raised. Lived in Hershey. Currently live in Hummelstown. Went to Lebanon Valley College locally. So
Okay, you're an LVC.
LVC grad, yep. I did not go to there for music. I did pre-med and business.
So many musicians we work with are LVC grads.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great music school. So yeah, that definitely led into that as well. But yeah, my background in music, I started playing the snare drum in 5th grade.
Okay.
11 years old, and that quickly led into playing the full drum set probably in 7th or 8th grade. And I've been in, I think, 24 bands, I want to say, at least, played in a bunch of different bands or sat in. My high school band was called the One Hand Clappers. And the reason being was all 4 members could clap with one hand.
What?
Everybody wants to see it now, right?
How does he do that? Oh. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, and then was in a variety of bands in college, and I've spent a lot of time in the band called Mountain Road. They do a lot of weddings and play every now and then. That band's been around, I think, for like 12 years. And Cold Spring Union is the other act that I play drums in as well. Currently, I've been a songwriter over the years too, dabble a little bit in guitar and piano. And I think that's kind of been the stem of this too. And the relation is that, I was in the local music scene, kind of seeing what was happening, observing some things and thinking this could be better for those around me as well.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the idea around it, I think. Yeah. And that was that, I think, yeah, you were saying inspiration-wise. So I think that's kind of it, right? Like, kind of just being a part of the scene, I think, led naturally into creating the Hall of Fame and having that focus that we do on the past and the present.
So it's basically Central Pennsylvania based.
Yep.
I know there's no actual lines.
Yep.
But probably Johnstown to like
Sure.
Shamokin. I
Right.
don't know. Like,
Yeah.
does that include the Poconos?
Yeah, we have arbitrary borders, right, that we're calling
Okay,
Central
yeah.
Pennsylvania, because sometimes people, at least like local news-wise, they say like Harrisburg, York, and Lancaster, but it's much broader than that, right?
Much bigger.
Yeah, so we kind of go New
Between
York.
Pittsburgh and Philly.
Yeah, pretty much.
That area.
That's pretty much it. We say Maryland border, New York border, and out past Altoona to like Reading, the whole way up through Wilkes-Barre and Scranton as well. So almost everything except like Philly and Allentown and Pittsburgh and Erie is kind of the arbitrary Central Pennsylvania, we'll say.
Yeah. What's so cool about, I always look forward to it every year. It's been like a staple for me for the past 6 years. I always look forward to it. And the reason being is that you get to be in the room with all of the people that are like you.
Right.
That are musicians or involved in some sort of piece of the industry in whatever fashion that might be. Whether it whether it's a guitarist, singer, songwriter, or whether you're in a cover band or whether you are an engineer.
Sure.
Kind of covers the gamut.
You're right.
But the fact of the matter is most of us are working on the same nights.
Correct. Yep.
And so it's hard for us to get in the same room and to celebrate each other or enjoy each other's crafts. So I really, really look forward to it every year.
Yeah, the networking alone, right?
The networking. Like, my favorite part is the red carpet, too. I love just hugging people and, shaking hands and taking pictures. And it's always really, really fun.
Yeah, and I always think of it, too. It's almost like, everybody is a local celebrity in my mind, right? Because I meet so many people out there on the red carpet a lot of times, and they don't know that I know them, but I'm like, hey, I've been following you for years, Like, I listen to your music. You recognize them based on, the gig posters or whatever it is, social media.
Social media is crazy.
Yeah. But you're right. It's very hard for us musicians to get out and see other acts too, because typically everybody's performing on a Friday or Saturday, which is usually why we hold our event on a Thursday.
Yeah.
And this year we had to move to a Wednesday. So
yeah.
random weekday works better for the musicians to not take away from a gig opportunity where they could lose money. And that's why we do it that way.
Yeah. Well, and it's really hard for those of us with kids too.
Yeah.
To get out when you do have a free Saturday.
For sure.
To get out of the house, or even to come on a Sunday to do a podcast. It's always like it's a whole planning process.
Yep.
Seriously.
For sure.
It's crazy. One other thing I wanted to mention about Brandon before we dig in deep is his last name's Valentine.
That's right. Yep.
You were actually born on Valentine's Day.
Correct.
How wild is that?
I know, right? This is a story that has followed me my entire life. I've explained it 10 million times, probably.
Did your parents really plan it out?
That's always the first question. Did your parents plan it? I was 6 weeks premature, so it was total fluke. It was not planned at all. Everybody says, was it a C-section? Do they wait till midnight or something?
Right.
But yeah, total fluke. I always say I'm just glad that I wasn't born on February 13th, and then my story would have been Brandon Valentine almost born on Valentine's Day, because that's almost even worse of a story to tell. But
that's crazy.
It's fun. I always say last name Valentine, born on Valentine's Day, from Hershey, Pennsylvania, sweetest place on earth, because I lived there, and I married my high school sweetheart. So it's crazy.
It's a love story.
Checked all the boxes.
That's right. Exactly.
That's awesome.
Got to be on a game show at some point,
Yeah. Maybe that's next.
There you go. We'll see.
Well, I'm sorry, Jose. Come on. Give me something here.
What?
I'm trying not to.
You're doing great, Katie. Just keep at it. So Brandon, let me just kind of start here, because I moved to Central Pennsylvania in 1995.
Okay.
So, and I was not very active in the music scene at that point.
Sure.
So I was actually taking a hiatus from performing for a while. And so there are a lot of acts that I did not realize that are from this area.
Definitely.
So, I mean, when you grew up in this area, I
Mhm.
mean, who were some of the acts that were big on your radar,
Yeah.
in your formative years?
Yeah, I think right around that time really is, I think, when I was starting to pay attention to music. And, I'd always hear on the radio like Emily's Toy Box or Green Eggs, like a lot of the cover bands kind of playing.
Screaming Daisies.
Right, exactly. Yeah. A lot of that stuff, at least at the local scene level. And then, like you said too, it was also awareness of who came from this area at that point too. So then it was the names like Live and Fuel or, Poison, Bret Michaels, to just kind of know that, hey, there were people that made it from our zip codes around here that, you can look at as an inspiration and say, I can do that too. So to see that path, I think, is always a connection now as well when, all the local musicians are sitting in the room and then they're able to see their inspirations make it on a grand scale to know that it's possible. It's great. But yeah, I don't know. I think those are probably the two that stand out. It was Emily's Toy Box and Green Eggs, at least from the local Harrisburg scene, kind of where I grew up. But yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I moved to the area, I was living in Hampton Township, which
Yep.
is back in the days of the wonderful Wandas.
Yeah, sure. Yep, 100%,
So,
yep.
I knew like the area I was from, I knew all the acts
Yep.
there, and then, I was like, oh, they have live music. So I did see Emily's Toy Box and Green Eggs and,
Yep.
and those bands
Right.
there. And to me, it's kind of interesting in that there was like this thriving live music scene. And this is, like I said, mid 90s. And then the bottom seemed to drop out of it
Yep.
in the 2000s, the
Yep.
early 2000s. So, I mean, what's your take on that and how it happened, and has it changed for the better?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard some feedback that it has, but I also think it's very cyclical, right? I mean, peaks and valleys happen every time in the local music scene for sure. I think we're on the climb right now for sure. But yeah, it's an interesting point because there was also right around that time was when a lot of bands were getting discovered from this area and making it, so to speak. And we've kind of had a lull since then, where it almost turned into a stigma where people thought in order to get discovered, they had to move out of central Pennsylvania. There was a big, exodus to say everybody needs to go to Nashville or New York or LA. And I think that's kind of coming back now because social media is more present than it was in, 2000. And, you can get discovered on TikTok and make it just as easy now than moving to Nashville. So yeah,
Probably easier.
Right.
Than
Yeah,
moving to
100%
Nashville.
agree. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You move to Nashville, you're playing for tips for a decade trying to make it, but
I was at Nashville last year for a little weekend getaway with my husband, and I saw the schlepping
yeah. Oh yeah.
of the gear,
Yep.
and it was like guitarists going from one bar to the next bar
Yep.
to work for tips.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I thought, oh my gosh, the grind
Yes, for
is
sure.
serious. I was one of those people. Like in the midst of my college career, said, no,
Yeah.
I'm going to go to LA.
Sure. Yep.
So I ended up going to LA, and I went to the Musicians Institute
Awesome.
on Hollywood Boulevard.
Nice.
But being out there, I worked 2 waitressing jobs.
Sure. Yeah.
Went to school.
Mm-hmm.
Could barely pay my rent.
Yep.
Was not doing my craft at all. And after a while, I woke up and my car was gone. Like someone had stolen my car, and I just said,
It's a sign, right?
I'm going to throw in the towel. So I actually ended up coming back to Central PA
Nice.
at that point, and I participated at that stage of the game in a pretty thriving music scene in York and Lancaster during my college years, and then I ended up moving away for 8 years.
Okay. Where to?
I moved to South Florida. I
Okay.
moved to Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
And I moved to Chicago.
All right.
All, of course, well, minus South Florida, Dallas and Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
You could go see a band on any night of the week
100% sure. Yeah.
at clubs. And so it was very eye-opening for me, and for someone to say, hey, Katie, can you come sing with us on Wednesday night at this place? And then I had a wedding on a Friday, and then a wedding on a Saturday. It was eye-opening, but then I moved back to Central PA, and it's been about 10 years ago now that I moved back. And I did notice a shift from when I left.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just in my area, but not a shift, not in a good direction.
Right.
And maybe I came back during a
Right.
lull.
Yeah.
So I was a bit taken back
Yeah,
at that point in time.
and that's exactly where I was at. Probably in that thing of thinking about creating the Hall of Fame was, I saw competitiveness in the scene, right? Acts going against each other to try to get gigs. How did they get that? It was almost like there's a lot of negativity going on, and even from the venues, from a booking standpoint, there was just a lot of factors that was like, this could be better. This could be better for the scene, and that was always part of the motivation to do this as well.
That's awesome.
Yep.
I want to talk about what happened in this past show, which on Wednesday.
Yes.
You had kind of talked about it a little bit before, but how you find out about these people and these things that happened here. I think a lot of times these amazing things that happen and these amazing people kind of get lost with time.
Definitely.
So how do you go back and how do you find out about these missing people that maybe a lot of people don't know about?
Yeah. It's I always say it takes a village. We have a very extensive board of directors and advisory committee that do a lot of research as well to try to find out. So some of it just comes down to Googling. Some of it comes down to their knowledge of the past. There's a wide variety of ages too. So, we just inducted August Burns Red, more popular, 2000s plus, but we have, some specialists, I'll say, who really know their 50s and 60s type music. So having a wide variety of knowledge on the board and the advisory committee comes into play. And then we have a process that it's kind of like submissions for consideration, where people can actually say, hey, take a look at this band. They did X, Y, and Z. And
you
they
kind of open it
resume.
up for people to.
Right. Yeah. It's like a Google form, I think, on our website, but they fill out all the information, and then our committee kind of reviews that information for eligibility and whether or not they should be on the ballot for consideration, right? So I kind of mentioned, I think at the beginning here, where when we started the Hall of Fame, I seriously think there was no more than maybe 20 acts on the ballot that we knew about, and then really having all of these people join the committee, dig into some research, and then really accepting feedback from the community. That list has grown over to 100 acts.
You've really made everyone's awareness of what's out there. Like, you just put it out there. Now, there's so many of us that are more aware of what's going on than we ever have been before.
Agreed, yeah. And that's kind of the beauty of the ceremony, too, is functioning as kind of like a local Grammys, so to speak. But when we induct the people who came from this area, it's also a history lesson to some extent, I
got my history lesson.
There you go.
Mike Reed. Literally, Mike Reed, pro football player.
That's right, yeah.
He played for Penn State.
Yep.
Cincinnati Bengals.
You got it.
And he became a professional writer, songwriter, I guess he got signed and did his own album as well. Yep. But he wrote Bonnie Raitt's Can't Make You Love Me.
Right.
He wrote for Prince.
Yep.
Ronnie Millsap.
Yep.
Who else? I don't know. There's a whole...
Willie Nelson.
Willie Nelson, yeah.
I mean, the list is nuts. A lot of country artists and a lot of people outside of the country realm, too.
But his story was so inspirational. I mean, I went online afterwards and just kind of read about his life.
Yeah.
But what's so crazy and inspiring for me, well, his speech was very inspiring.
Definitely, 100%.
But seeing somebody that full circle, his talent is full circle.
It is. Yep. You're right. Came from Altoona. And honestly, backstage, the guy couldn't have been more humble as well. There was a beautiful moment with soundcheck beforehand, that he's out there. He was playing I Can't Make You Love Me. And it was just a jaw-dropping moment, I think, for like 5 or 6 people standing on stage. And he played the first verse and stopped. And, our buddy Derek Houston was there too. And he goes, can you please continue playing? I want to get a video of it. And he was like, sure, I'll play the second verse for you. Aww. And he played the rest of the whole song. Yeah. And we were all just kind of lost in the music there for a minute.
That's the humbleness too. That
so humble.
I love people that are just humble about their crafts, and not really showy about it. But
I'll expand on that a little bit too, because I mean, just the humility that he had after soundcheck was he played 2 songs, right? He played Ronnie Millsap's "Stranger in My House," and he played Bonnie Raitt's "I Can't Make You Love Me," which again he co-wrote. And he stepped off stage and he was like, "Brandon, I feel like this is too much time. I should just play one song. Like, I don't want to take up too much time in the ceremony." And I'm like, Mike, I was holding a stack of papers. I had to put it down on the table next to me, and I said, I got a level set here, right? I said, Mike, you are here because you are an inspiration for everybody. 95% of the people sitting in this audience are members of the current local music community. There are kids out there. There are people who are trying to make it, and they are looking at you going, this guy laid the groundwork.
Mm-hmm.
He is what we're here for. He is the inspiration. I said, I would love for you to get up there and sing 5 songs. Don't feel like you're taking up time. You are the focus of the event here, you know? And it was kind of refreshing, you know. Sometimes you deal with local musicians or national musicians, and you know they're famous, right? They have a god complex, you know. This guy was the most humble of guys, very kind. Even when he walked off stage, he said, "I hope my speech wasn't too long." Again, or like you were wonderful, and I think he was going to head back to his hotel room then, and the barrage of compliments that he ended up getting afterwards, right? It was almost all of the acceptance speeches were, I'm still emotionally overwhelmed by Mike Reed's performance and speech. Somebody else came out and was like, Mike Reed was incredible, and he was he was backstage a little bit walking around, and I went and found him and I said, Mike, Did you hear what they just said? Like I was trying to remind him, like, you weren't an inconvenience in this program.
Mm-hmm.
You were one of the most memorable pieces, not only of the night, but of the past 6 ceremonies we've had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are so many musicians that we know that they kind of have a me complex too sometimes.
Sure. Yeah.
And so that kind of drives me crazy, and it kind of makes me feel icky.
Sure. Yep.
Because I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
Kind of icky, but.
Well, I think one of the cool things is that, I mean, obviously, if just to pick some names like
Sure.
the Bret Michaels of the world,
Yep.
the Lives,
Mhm.
that where unless you're living under a rock,
Mhm.
you know those people, you know their names, and you know their faces,
Yeah.
especially. But there are so many musicians that have contributed to, like you're saying, paved the path. They have
Mhm.
done so many things. They're really successful in their ability to take their ideas, utilize their gifts, and create something for the world that people don't know.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you're highlighting these kind of people
Yeah.
that they're kind of the unsung heroes a lot of times.
Yeah.
But they're the ones that are actually getting the stuff done.
Right. Yeah. Well, you're right. In this case, with Mike Reed being a songwriter, that was, I think, the first true songwriter that we were able to induct into the Hall of Fame too. But yeah, kind of a little bit more behind the scenes, I guess. And one of my favorite stories is even Robert White as well. We inducted him the first year, actually. He was a member of the Funk Brothers out of Motown, right? And that's one of my favorite stories too, because he was from Bill Meyer, PA. I think it was a little bit down the Susquehanna River there. And people don't even know who the Funk Brothers are. I mean, it's they were literally a house band in a studio in Motown that was responsible for hundreds, if not thousands, of #1 hits. They are the musicians who play in the background on the Temptations tracks, and basically every named act you can think of. They had more #1 hit singles. That was my favorite stat. It was like Elvis, the Beatles, Rolling Stones, like all of these huge names. They had more #1 tracks than all of them combined because they're on every
Everything.
Motown hit. So Robert White was the guitar player in Motown with the Funk Brothers, and most known for his My Girl guitar solo. Everybody knows that. So it's just finding those stories that and bringing awareness to it is really part of the fun.
Well, it's kind of wild because also what was a shocker to me is like sometimes you can have somebody right in front of your face that you work with
Yeah,
all the time and you have no clue.
sure.
So that happened to me
Okay,
on Wednesday. So our good friend Mike Bitts,
sure. Yep.
who we utilize him a lot to sub in on bass when we
Sure.
need someone.
Yep.
He's uber talented,
For sure.
extraordinarily talented.
Yep.
He works in a lot of different projects. The
Mhm.
Naked Eye Ensemble,
Mhm.
Tractor Jerry.
Yep.
He's got his Genesis project.
Yep.
He's got the Rush band,
Yep. Solar
Solar
Federation.
Federation.
Yep.
He's really in high demand, like as far as a studio musician goes. And we often hire him for. He's also an organist.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's a.
I guess that makes sense because I think in the Rush band he's playing keys and bass simultaneously.
He's a very
So, yeah.
accomplished organist, and so when
Yeah.
we have someone, a bride, contact us and say, "Hey, we're getting married in a church. We
Right.
need an organist."
Okay, nice.
We'll call him up.
That's great.
Of course, so we've worked with him for quite a few years now, and little did I know, you guys were inducting his band, his original band from the 80s,
Right.
The Innocence Mission,
That's right.
and you inducted them.
Mhm.
they played a song, Bright as Yellow. And I'm sitting in the audience going, why does this song resonate with me so much? Yeah. So you're a child of the 90s too.
Yep.
I think we're kind of both in our early 40s.
That's right.
What did this soundtrack have an important...
No.
It didn't?
No, not for me, no.
All right. Nope. I'm talking about this. I'm going to... Right here. Oh, wait, where's my camera? Oh, there you are.
There you go.
Empire Records.
Empire Records, that's right.
Did you watch this movie in the 90s?
I did, yes. I was more, I would say, I don't know, I like the Dumb and Dumber soundtrack. Okay. I like the...
This is a really good soundtrack if you have not heard it.
I forget the one with Kiss Me on it, too.
Yes.
Maybe a little bit mid to late 90s, I don't know. But this song was also in Party of Five, too, which was, iconic of the time, too. So.
That was big of the era as well. Well, the next day I went on a mission to go, why did that song affect me so much? And I come to find out that that song was featured on this. And this was just a huge part of me growing up.
Yep.
So to find out someone that I've worked so closely with had such a pivotal impact on my growing up
that's wild,
was like, it just blew my mind.
Yeah.
So you really never know. You never know.
Yeah.
You just never know what kind of contributions some people have, even if they're right in front of your face. So, so that was just a really great moment for me.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. You have any questions here, Jose?
Yes.
Okay. I gotta give him some space.
I hear it. Yes. That's how you cue him up.
Yeah. You set it up. I'll knock it out of the park. Now, when you're thinking about like the logistics of an event like this, this is quite an undertaking. I mean, how long does the planning season last before you even start thinking about the ins and outs of the event?
I like to say I take a vacation from it. I think the meat of it really happens probably in the, I'd say, November to March timeframe. And to be quite honest and 100% transparent, I tend to procrastinate. I think a lot of creative people don't like to force creativity, and I think even in this case, event planning, when I'm under pressure, my creativity tends to come out the best.
Well, so it's hard to get the meat and potatoes until the meat and potatoes are presented to you.
Correct. Yeah. So we have a process beforehand, which is like, we need to vote on who's getting inducted, right? So we can't really plan right now because we don't know who we're inducting next year, right? So we have a standard voting process, and then similarly to like what you're saying is we need to have the full calendar year kind of present itself with the local musicians, and then have them and their fans submit their material for consideration. So really all that kind of comes to a point at the end of the year, like right around Christmas time and New Year's, and then it's full steam ahead from January 1st till usually our events in March at some time.
Don't you have all these like little pieces in the back of your brain that
definitely
you want to cross this off your list, but maybe it's not the year to do it?
100%.
So you always have stuff in there.
Definitely.
Are you like, I mean, this just happened last Wednesday. I bet after the show is over, you're like, okay, I can breathe.
Definitely.
Are you like doing anything fun just to like decompress?
I mean, we always have the after party afterwards, which I think is still, it's fun, but I don't know. I'm naturally, I think, an introvert, which a lot of people don't really think.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, right.
Believe it or not.
I've said this so many times in interviews too, because when you say decompress, to me, like that means I need to go sit in a corner and do nothing. I need to sit on my phone and like, just literally decompress. Some people get charged up by going out on the weekend and talking, and the full day of the event, you need to be on.
Oh yeah.
And that is exhausting. Oof. Right? Then I need to be off for several.
I think that is the key piece, at least for us being doing weddings every weekend. It's like you're on for 12 hours in a day.
Right. Yep.
And not just performance wise.
Right. Yeah.
But you have to be a people person.
That's right.
And that is exhausting.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And so by decompress, I mean, at least for me, it's, can I sit on my couch? Can I read a book?
Right.
Play guitar?
Yeah.
Do something just for me?
Right.
And
I always phrase it as recharging the batteries too.
Yeah.
It's like, I need to get recharged by that.
Sometimes I feel very guilty for doing that.
Well, you got to do you know.
Yeah, okay.
You should.
I should feel guilty.
You're too damn lazy,
Oh,
Katie.
shush.
No,
Shush.
see, I'm the same way in that I'm an introvert
Okay.
by nature.
Yep.
I've had to learn to be extroverted.
Sure.
When
know.
you need to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, for me, what recharges my battery 99% of the time is doing more work.
Yeah. That's
So
fair.
it's like,
Yeah.
I find it very difficult to just veg out. Now, granted,
agree.
there are times when I have to shut down,
Yep.
but I may need to do something creative, but maybe not something where I am on stage,
Yeah,
where
right.
I'm
Yeah.
on,
Mhm.
where it's like, okay, I'm going to work on this next book. I'm going to do this. And actually, I'm going to go down a rabbit hole on this. There's some interesting research that was done about, well, for years, psychologists knew that anxiety reduces your creativity and your problem solving skills.
Sure.
And, researchers like, well, seems to make sense, and it would work the opposite way. So that if you do suffer from anxiety, you should spend more time doing creative and problem solving tasks, because it's going to get your brain into the right spot. So I was talking to a friend of mine about that, and I said, I just realized that the reason I no longer have any problems with anxiety is that my life is built around creativity and problem solving.
Yeah.
So everything I do is in one, if not both of those camps.
I 100% agree with all of that, Jose, to be honest. That is, I think myself in general, I think I naturally have a very busy and anxious mind, but I think people ask me all the time, how do you get everything done? How do you have more than 24 hours in a day? Because they know my, life. I coach baseball, right? I have a full-time job. I manage the Hall of Fame, I'm in 2 different bands, there's so many different things I am, but that is, I say that with all humility in the sense that, like, to your point, I have to stay busy in order to, I don't like relaxing, I don't like going to the beach and sitting there and doing nothing. I'm like, let's get stuff done. Go ahead, Katie.
I'm the same way. Like, I relate to that so much. I can't imagine, as much, I'm very much enjoying my March downtime right now, but I could not do this for a long period of time. I have to always have something going on. Hence, we got a podcast going on. We've got
right, exactly.
I've actually stepped up, and I'm like, well, let's practice guitar every day. Let's like do all the things and get it in, because you feel so. I'm not one to sit and watch hours and hours of TV.
Right, sure.
Like, I'm not a binge watcher. I don't like doing that stuff.
Yep.
I always feel like my time is better spent doing something productive.
Which is probably why we're all technically in the events industry, because we know it's overwhelming, but we don't get overwhelmed. We feel like it's productive. And I think there are ideas people and there are implementation people, and it's very rare to find both.
Yes. Yes, there are people that like to think about the things they want to do, and then there's actually the people that actually implement those things.
And back to that whole anxiety thing too. I think anxiety can be paralyzing, and you could overthink things to say, I'm not going to do it because of XYZ consequences. But to some way it could be healthy, right? Where you could worry about it and go, you know what, I'm going to do it anyway. I don't know. It's fun.
I do have paralyzing anxiety sometimes.
Sure.
But I also, I think it benefits me in our industry, because it's not a good trait, I don't think, but I think for the particular purpose of planning, I'm always thinking of the worst case scenario.
Sure.
However, that has come to benefit me in certain ways, because you can foresee something that might go wrong.
Obstacles, sure, yeah.
And divert it.
Right. You might lose a lot of sleep over that, but
I've said this before. He rolls his eyes. When I first got into the wedding industry, I would lose sleep for weeks before an event, just because did I cover all my bases? Did I forget anything? Yep. And that being said, when you are in the live event industry, things go wrong.
Yeah, sure.
And you got to be prepared to pivot.
The way I phrase that is, even when I'm coaching baseball with the kids, is strive for perfection, but you have to also know that it is impossible. Yeah. It is, because every event we're ever going to do,
there's going to be a hiccup.
It can't go 100% perfect. Yeah. Strive for 99.9, and even if it ends up at 98 or 99, it's still good. I remember my high school music teacher was like, you almost have to think the same in event planning as you do in music, which is They did a exercise where everybody was given a piece of music in the concert band, and 10% of the notes were wrong randomly throughout the piece. And then you play it all together, and this person played 10% wrong, that person played 10% wrong, all at different spots, and it sounds like an utter train wreck, right? But the messaging is everybody got an A. Everybody did 90% correctly, right? If you do that in math or science or whatever, you're top in the class. You do that in music. Music encourages perfectionist mindset, right?
We talk about that a lot.
90% is unacceptable as a musician.
Yes,
you know?
it is. We all have such high standards.
Yeah.
Yep.
But that being said, you know, you producing this show once a year, there's
Yep.
got to be some hiccups behind
Always
the
is.
scenes that we don't see.
Always, yes.
So what are some hiccups that happened this past Wednesday that we don't know about?
This past week, my favorite one that was probably the most, hair on fire moment I've had in all 6 of the ceremonies was one of the presenters was on the side stage. We have sponsors and people of the board and advisory committee come out and present awards. And it was for the Educator of Note Award, right? Which is something we do. We provide an award to either a teacher in grade school or high school or college. This year is AJ Merlino. He taught at Albright and some other facilities as well. Great resume. He's a Grammy-nominated educator, so happy to acknowledge him locally for that. And she had what she was going to read, right, to bring him up to the stage. And she came over and asked me a question, and it triggered, I have to put all the slides together, right? And there was about over 100 slides that we had. And she asked me a question about AJ, and I thought, oh my God, that was the one thing that I missed, right? Was in the 100 or so slides that we had, I go through and edit all the animation, make sure all the text is there. And AJ, I had his picture and his name, and then underneath it, I was going to put a description in and or put what college or universities he taught at. And as a placeholder, I put about 50 capital X's.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And in her moment and asking me the question, I was like, oh my God, I never changed that. And it was like 2 slides away. So from where I'm at on the side stage to present the awards and where the production team is on the opposite side of the stage, and the only way to get to that side is literally to go backstage around.
And sprint.
Sprint. So I'm in a suit and I had a full-on sprint over and said, can you pull up the next slide? And they said, no.
Oh, no.
And I was like, how are we going to do this? I said, don't you have that switcher thing where you can just move over to the general logo for a second because I need to change something. And he was like, yes, I can do that. He hit a button. We exited the slideshow. He pulled it up. I said, get rid of all those X's. They hit enter. We pulled it back up on the next thing. And I ran back over, and then I had to come out and say something. And within 30 seconds, the slide was up. And I was like, oh my God, that would have been so embarrassing. And I felt like it would have been a moment that would have maybe tarnished the moment for AJ too, because everybody would have been like, what is that? So it was a hair on fire moment, but ultimately it panned out. And I'm just happy that Holly, the presenter, asked me the question, and it allowed me to be aware of that before.
That's where your fight or flight kicked in.
Yes. And I had to fly.
You could have just said that he's working on a very top secret project.
Yeah, exactly.
And it had to be redacted.
Yep. It was, well, you can't see that, Yeah.
It's a vision test.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh,
exactly.
I know that exact feeling, when you realize you've made a mistake before it happens,
Right.
which is,
Yep.
but it is that mad dash.
Yeah.
And sometimes I deal with it very well. Sometimes I feel like I'm scrambling.
Yeah.
A lot of the times when I have one of those moments and I need to come up, it's a lot of times when I'm at a wedding and I didn't write down someone's name,
Sure,
and I'm
yeah.
supposed to be like,
Yes.
I'm scripted. I'm the
Hey,
MC.
you, one of those
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Hey, Daddy.
Right. Yeah.
It's a mad dash going, where did I put it? Where did I put his name?
Right.
And sometimes you feel, in the moment, you feel like you're scrambling.
Yes.
You might be doing what you need to do to find the information, but
Yeah.
you always feel like, can't come fast enough.
But the key to that is you still maintain your poise, right? It's just like being a musician up on stage, the backing track goes wrong or your mic cuts out or whatever, you still go on as usual, right?
Yep.
That happened at the ceremony too. I had a script with August Burns Red to introduce them, and I realized that we changed it, and I didn't change it in the script. So I had a moment where I kind of had to sit there and think in my head, okay, how are we going to do this? And I knew we didn't have the cue music for them to come up. And I was like, oh man, this is.
I do remember that.
Yeah, and then he actually made a comment and was like, oh, I guess I understand why they didn't play our music, because he thought we had something against metalcore and didn't want to play the metal music as he came up. But no, that was 100% my error and not including that in the because again we had a band perform their song, but we in the initial planning process they were going to perform first, and then they were going to walk up, and we switched it around. So but again, these are the things that. You strive for perfection. It's impossible, but you do your best, and hopefully no one noticed. I may have had a moment of silence there, but ultimately it was fun.
Zero noticed. Well, I was really honored to be a judge for the youth showcase that you guys put on at Millersville University.
Yep.
Have you done that for how many years have you done that?
That was our fourth, I believe. Third or fourth, I can't remember. Yeah,
I think it's great. I think it's really awesome.
Yeah.
I am not a music educator.
Mm-hmm.
I did kind of dip my toe in that world a little bit during college and a little after, and
Nice.
I realized that I'm not a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
nor did I like it very much.
Yeah.
But I am totally inspired by other people.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
That are in that world,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm also very inspired by these young people.
Yeah.
To see what's going on and
Right.
what's out there. And I love to support that.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing where we come into play and like my company comes into play is
Mm-hmm.
that we get those people, we get those
Sure.
kids
Yeah,
after.
right,
And we end up, fostering them and giving them opportunities, professional opportunities as
Sure.
musicians. And
Yep.
so that's where I see them and I say, that's our future.
Right.
Yeah. Because a lot of the musicians in Central City Orchestra in particular,
Mm-hmm.
9 years ago, a lot of them were York College students.
Sure. Yeah. Makes sense.
And, one of our original members, Sam, he is our musical director now.
Okay. Nice.
But he was originally an 18-year-old keyboard player from York College, just kind of getting a start.
Yep.
And he's grown and learned and is now calling the shots.
Love it. That's great.
So I'm really excited about that, and I was honored to be a part of that. So that's so much fun for me.
Yeah, really about next generation of musicians for our area. We talked a lot about how we take a look at the past and then we honor the present with the the CPMAs as the local Grammys. But the heart and soul of the organization is solely focused on the future. That's what makes it a 501c3 nonprofit, right? Which is focus on youth music education. So we do a lot of different things with the Youth Music Showcase. I kind of come up with a better way to describe this, but I always say it's like a talent show, but it's not, because it's such a higher level. Like these kids are, you picture a high school talent show, but these are the best of the best. These are the best of the best, right?
Yeah.
We pick the top 10 or the top 12 acts typically from our, arbitrary borders of central Pennsylvania. So some of these kids are from Williamsport, some were from Reading, from all over the area. And they're really kids who are trying to be an artist, or be in a band. Wasn't necessarily, the intent is never, just to have, somebody plays violin or trombone and they're going to get up there and show their talent. This is like, I'm 16 years old. I play acoustic guitar. I'm playing gigs. I'm trying to establish a brand. Like, this is what I want to do. And then with that, you being one of the judges, they get great feedback, right? It's very constructive. It wasn't necessarily like a American Idol type vibe where, somebody's being Simon Cowell and saying you need to do X, Y, Z better. Super encouraging for them. And some great feedback of like, hey, maybe you could try this, or, here's a little way to, try, head voice or, whatever, that can help them grow. And then everybody gets a prize at the end, right? To help their careers as well. So really great event. And it's one of my favorites that we put on throughout the year, because you love to see the talent at such a young age. Heck, even down to this year, we had Penny Shaw, age 12 years old, getting up there singing Sweet Child of Mine, and she crushed it. So crazy.
She did. I sit at those type of things. I was a part of another
PMEA.
Why can I not? I can never remember that.
I know, right? Too many acronyms.
So many acronyms. The PMEAs I was a part of with Dan Brenner, who is he's a former bandmate of mine and a former my former songwriting partner.
Right.
But I met a lot of those kids at the
Mhm.
PMEAs
Yep.
last year, and to see them again
Yep.
and see them on an individual basis.
Sure. Yeah. Right. Right.
Because at the PMEAs, they teamed them up in
Right.
a band.
Right.
So you got to
Like
you
a
didn't,
School of Rock kind of vibe.
yeah, kind of a
basically,
School
yeah.
of Rock thing. So to see them and their individualism was
Right.
kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and there was a good variety of original songs in there too.
Yeah.
As teenagers, you know, putting themselves out there. It wasn't just covers. A lot of them do
Yeah.
their thing.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and then again, I sit there and I watch them and I go, what was I doing when I was that age?
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Was I singing Sweet Child of Mine when I was, how old
Definitely
is she,
not.
13?
12?
12.
Yeah. Right.
I was not.
No. I was still. I didn't even know pitch. I didn't even have an ear. I had to teach myself. You know.
You were singing Anne Murray.
I was singing Anne Murray. I was.
Sound of Music.
Listen, I didn't have any, gosh, I don't put anybody down, you know, but like my musical influences growing up were not like cool.
Sure. Okay.
They weren't the cool.
Okay. Tell me more.
Well, I've said it many times, but I mean, you know, one of the main reasons I'm a singer today is because my dad told me I sounded like Anne Murray growing up, which a lot of people out there don't know who Anne Murray is, but you know, she was a country soft pop
Canadian.
I guess she dabbled in some gospel at some point. But you know, a lot of kids nowadays would not know who she is. But Neil Diamond and I mean, all great artists.
Sure.
But it's not like I was growing up on, you know, something hip.
Right.
That explains a lot, Katie.
I kind of found my own way, and I kind of found my own sound. But I look at these kids and I go, okay, well, what was I doing at 16?
Right.
Oh, I was in a pop group at 16.
Right.
Like I wore a headset.
Yep.
And I danced and sang around.
There you go.
Like it was the
Mickey
90s.
Mouse Club,
Like,
you know? Yeah.
kind of. That's
Right.
We all have our start
Yeah,
somewhere.
but it's a completely different world.
Yep.
I mean, it's like I look back on where I was when I was at that age.
Mhm.
I mean, that was a long time ago, and there weren't that many opportunities.
Right.
It's like for playing music, especially as a wind instrument player,
Mhm.
it was either play in a concert band
Yep.
Mhm.
or you played in a big band.
Sure. Yep.
And there weren't. I mean, yes, that was
The
Because-
dawn of ska, right? Wasn't
well, I'm before ska.
Okay.
So, I mean, it was, certainly that was the heyday of groups like Kool and the Gang, Earth, Wind and Fire,
Yeah,
and,
sure,
and,
sure,
and
yeah.
Chicago.
Chicago, yeah.
So, but there weren't that many opportunities for a musician in their teens
Yeah.
to do that kind of playing.
Definitely
Any
makes sense.
garage band is
Yeah.
just going to be,
Right. Rock. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, not having the ability to do it, and then also not having the access to the resources.
Yeah.
Unless you're lucky enough to live in either a major metropolitan area or in an area that has a thriving arts community,
Yeah.
you're kind of SOL.
Yeah.
But I think now, with the internet, obviously, you have access to pretty much everything.
Right.
And I think now that more organizations like, doing the things that you're doing
Yeah.
of really trying to foster this next generation, I think that adds another layer to it, and it's gonna. I think it's gonna help to make, as we talked about earlier about the music scene, how it's kind of dipped.
Yep.
That as that talent pool increases, well, one of two things is going to have to happen. One is they're either going to need to leave because the pond is too small for them,
Right.
or the pond is going to have to expand to
Right.
give them more opportunities.
Yep.
So my hope is that the pond expands.
Sure. I mean, I agree with all that, but when you look at it on the whole too, and now with all this access to social media and everything, one of my favorite stats I like to mention is there are over 150,000 tracks loaded to digital distribution every day.
Wow. Every day.
So how the heck do you
Yeah.
get your stuff? Oversaturation, it's there's a lot out there, and everybody can record something at home
Yeah.
and push it out. So the access to recording and digital distribution has made it easier for artists to get their stuff out there, but it's also made it harder
Harder
to
to get
separate
found.
yourself.
Yeah, there's too much noise.
Right.
So how do you separate yourself?
It's a great question,
Yes,
which
that-
I don't have the answer to.
I think there's so much saturation in everything right now
Definitely,
that,
yeah.
Even on social media,
Mhm.
have you noticed the shift this past year where it's mainly ads now?
Oh yeah, definitely.
You don't even
Yeah.
you don't even see your friends
It's
post
like
anymore.
every other thing almost. I
And
think it was 1 in 3, but yeah.
I don't know if that was a shift when AI really started coming in, but
Right.
it's like everything gets so watered down.
Yeah.
And it's been, I mean, frustrating for me as a business owner
Yeah.
because not only has it affected social media, it's affected your ability to be found on Google.
Sure.
It's affected so many different things.
Yeah.
So
I think it's worth question too. I mean, that almost makes the business harder to stand out, right? Because I
Yeah.
think in the beginning of like Facebook, even if our organization did, a paid ad to advertise a event we had for ticket sales, it stood out, right?
Yeah.
I think, we did it, and it doesn't seem to be getting as much traction as it used to because there's so many ads.
Something's happened, and there's been a shift.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out what that shift is. And I really think AI has had a lot to do with SEO changes.
Yeah, sure.
Which I'm trying to work around, which
there is no SEO.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like you said, it's AI related now. It's almost the first thing that comes up every time you
But it's been a
search
shift
anything,
recently.
Yeah, you're right.
But
very recently, yeah.
But to go back to the students, a positive change that's happened, and it's been very recently, is the shift to having modern rock band options in schools.
Definitely,
where if my whole schooling experience would have been totally different if I had some sort of program like that.
Yep.
I was always the alternative student. My college professors always gave Katie the workaround because she didn't want to play classically. She wanted to play to accompany herself or whatever. And so it was, they had to adjust the curriculum just for me, which a lot of them were happy to do.
That's good.
I mean, he wanted to get me out of there, I think.
So needy. Jeez.
I'm so needy.
Yeah.
I know.
But it's funny because I'm on hiatus right now from my trumpet podcast that I started doing in 2020. But
what is that called? I got to know this one.
It's called The Trumpet Gurus Hang.
Okay, very nice. Got to hang with the trumpet guru.
Exactly.
Like
but I was interviewing a guy who's a professor down at University of South Carolina. Super great guy. But we were having a conversation about what it takes to be a working professional, especially in this modern age. And he teaches a lot of, besides the standard trumpet curriculum, he's a jazzer too, but he teaches a lot of music production. How to use Ableton, how to use because these are stuff you gotta know how to do.
Yep.
But one of the things that he said I thought was just brilliant. Well, he said, most of the people who come through this program, you as a trumpet player, you're required most auditions. You have to play these classical excerpts. It's like you're never going to get paid to play Petrushka.
Right.
Nobody's going to pay you to play that. So why do we make these people do it? He said, if you're a trumpet player and you're going to make a living playing, you need to know how to play September. You need to know how to play Superstition. Yeah, so these are now it's Uptown Funk. If you're going to work, you need to know these songs. So he actually, as part of his curriculum, makes them learn the lines for all of these very standard songs.
I like it.
That the kind of stuff that I got to do every weekend. And just going, if more people approached the instruction of music that way, then I think it would set up the students for so much more success because you come out with the necessary vocabulary, for whatever it is. If you're a guitar player, you should know how to play Sweet Child of Mine. You should know how to play,
the standards.
The standards,
our
new
standard covers, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Our new standards.
That's right. Yep.
I mean, when I was taking vocal coaching in high school, I was training classically, and I was also singing in a pop band at the time. And of course, I got scolded that you can't do both.
Right.
And I never believed that.
Right.
And I think doing both actually strengthened things for me.
What about like musicals? Were you involved in that too?
I was. I did the whole musical thing as well. And so, which, musicals, you're using a belting voice for that, which is a lot more like a pop voice, I think.
Right.
Maybe
depends on the musical, maybe, but yeah.
But yeah, I was in that world too. But I had people telling me you can't do both.
Right.
Until I had a vocal teacher that said, "Hey, you can."
Sure. I mean, there's some people out there who do opera and pop.
Yeah.
Popera, if you will. No.
Well, I mean, it's the difference between, the specialist and the utility player.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with either one.
Yep.
So it's like, if you go to LA, you're going to find a lot of specialists, but like when you go to the studios, those are all utility players.
For sure.
Because you walk into a studio session, you never know what you're playing.
Yes.
And you have to be able to
sight read at 100%, you know?
Yeah.
Versus, if a cover band that has horns needs you as a backup, you know all the songs already, you're prepared. They're not going to throw you a curveball and play, a B-side of some random thing you never heard of.
And the only problem is the damn vocalists always want to change the keys.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
why you're a musician. You know that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, transposing.
I'm a drummer.
Yeah.
I love asking, before we play, I'm like, what key are we doing?
Yeah. All right. I've got some lightning round questions for you.
All right,
They're just kind of random.
Go.
So I'm just going to throw them out there. Since you're a drummer.
Yeah.
Your favorite drummer of all time?
Usually go with Buddy Rich for jazz.
Nice.
Yes. Biggest inspiration. I think outside of that from the rock, you have to say Neil Peart is how you say his name. I recently learned it's not Peart from Rush. But yeah, Buddy Rich for sure.
Nice.
Okay. Best concert you've ever attended?
The Eagles. Love the Eagles. I'm a sucker for vocal harmony. It's essential.
Yes, it is essential. Okay. Because you're a coach, who's your favorite baseball team?
Boston Red Sox. My dad grew up in Cape Cod. So I've been a lifer. I can tell you're a Yankees fan, right? Just the way you're looking at me.
No. Yeah, I'm a Pirates fan.
Pirates, all right. I like it.
Yeah, well.
You guys aren't going to have a lot of fans.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Boston Red Sox.
That's because I lived outside of Pittsburgh when I
Nice.
first started getting interested in sports. So,
Well,
but hey, it was during the Clemente.
I was going to say, Stargell. They had a very good team. What was that? Late 70s, early, I guess 70s, right?
Mid 70s.
Well, even 60s, I guess was Clemente.
Yeah, 60. I think 61 maybe was.
Yeah.
That was when they won their first World Series,
Right.
and then I got to see them play.
Kiner and all that.
Yeah.
They were good in the 90s too.
Yeah.
But coming back at it. Anyway.
Okay, I'm gonna ask this one. If you could put together a dream band, who would you have in it?
Eek. Wait, is this
That's
like
tough. I was going to say.
Is this like professionals? Is this like local musicians?
Yeah,
Let's do the Central Pennsylvania
Oh,
Dream
man.
Band.
Oh, no.
That's even worse. I don't
That
even
is
know if I
worse.
can go there because
Yeah, I know.
I got to be Switzerland. I mean, I love
Yeah.
all the local musicians. Everybody has their favorites. Music's obviously subjective as well. But there's a ton of talent out there. I don't even think I can answer that
I know.
question, seriously.
That's like saying, as a wedding band, where's your favorite venue to play? Well, it's just not really
yeah, they all have to be your
Who was your favorite bride and groom?
I think to answer it generally, I mean, I think I like good variety and mixes. I heard it described once when somebody was describing how their band works. It's even in my mind, it's almost a downside with our award ceremony is we have to pigeonhole people in genres, right? And a lot of times, genre bending is the norm now.
It's the norm.
You could be jazz funk, pop, rock, blues all mixed together, and to say you're a jazz band is kind of unfair a little bit, I think. But you have to put them in there.
I know.
They have to chart somewhere.
I think we
in
spent
that
some
too,
time
but
trying to figure out what category could be.
even for Central City, you're
If
saying?
Central City Orchestra, like what is that? Because
Yeah.
I think we were originally lumped with like we
Yeah,
were
what was it
with an
initially?
actual orchestra
Yeah. Well, yeah, there was
symphony. We were teamed up with a symphony.
Yeah, I think the
orchestra.
Harrisburg
I'm like,
Symphony was
I'm like,
in
we're
there.
not really
I
that.
can't remember what the
remember.
category we had in the
I
beginning
can't
was.
remember either.
But then we changed it to variety dance, and I was like, that makes sense.
That makes
This is
sense.
more, party band,
Yeah.
wedding band kind of vibe. Yeah, it was ensemble. That's what it was.
Oh yeah,
Best ensemble. Is
I
how we
think our
phrase it.
name kind of throws people off sometimes too.
Yeah.
But it
They
puts
think
off
you
a
have-
classy vibe for
For sure.
for the wedding world.
Yeah.
But orchestra, you can be pretty much any ensemble.
Yeah, exactly.
But
People are picturing, a conductor and strings.
yeah. I
right?
mean, some wedding bands do have strings.
Yeah.
We don't. We've always thought about like having a string add-on like as an option, which would be
Hey,
kinda cool.
you got ELO out there too, and they're I mean they did have players, but not giving off that electric light orchestra is not conductor and strings that's
Yeah.
it, so
Yeah.
also a party band.
Yeah.
Saw them recently too. That was a good concert.
Good concert?
Mhm.
Oh, I need to make it out to more concerts. Seriously. Seriously. We just always we're always booked on a Saturday night, so
Right.
and we're out of town.
Right.
We're never in town.
Yeah, it's tough.
And when I'm in town, the last thing I want to do is go to that
Go out.
concert.
I know.
Exactly.
Okay, this is a dumb one, but what's your favorite food?
Well, we were just talking about that over there. Pineapple would be in there. Love cheese, love pineapple, love cilantro.
So it sounds like those are random things.
Yeah, I'm just saying like ingredients. I
so-
guess more like I don't know. I guess I'd say
Pineapple. I mean,
pizza
so you like
or
Mexican
steak,
food and
cheeseburgers. A standard answer. Love Mexican, love Thai.
so you're a cilantro guy.
I am a cilantro.
You
guy,
don't
yes.
you don't taste the sand
Do
that
you?
everyone talks about.
I was
No,
gonna say,
I
do
love
you?
cilantro.
Cilantro. They always say you're in one group. You either love it or you
You-
think it tastes like soap or something.
Yeah,
you know?
soap.
Yeah.
Soap.
Right.
No, I'm a cilantro
I
fan.
think it's great.
Yeah.
The more the merrier.
I'm with you.
What else you got?
That's a good question. Katie, you're always asking me questions.
Rapid fire to you.
I'm
Jose.
sorry. I'm sorry.
No, if you could go back and change anything in the process of
Oof.
the Hall of Fame,
Mhm.
what would it be?
It's a good question. I
It's
think.
all learning, right? You're just learning.
Yeah.
You learn from mistakes
I mean,
or things that don't work.
I think even if that was asked in personal life, I think my answer would default to no regrets. I mean, you are where you are because of the mistakes you made and or the successes you've experiences. I think generally speaking, as the Hall of Fame goes, we've done things well, I think, in having like the board and the advisory committee kind of vet things out. Like, is this smart to do now? Is this something we should do in the future? There's always a lot of discussion on certain aspects, but we've done some things where we've done original music showcases, partnered with a local venue and booked some concerts. They could have been handled a little bit better. Even like our open mics that we've done more promotion around. So yeah, some of the smaller events. But
Which, again,
that's
is very
trial and
hard.
error, Yeah, it is. I mean, that's my biggest focus, I think, in the local music scene, is it's not the bands who aren't able to bring people out. It's not the venues that aren't able to bring people out. It's the people's desire to want to go to these things, right?
Mhm.
I mean, and we're talking about,
And there's been a shift there too.
Yeah.
Like with the generation where I don't think young people are as gung ho as we were to get out of the house.
Definitely.
And like
Definitely.
go out with your friends
Yep.
and it's just different. Like
Mhm.
it's more of a a lot of kids these days. You have kids.
Yep.
I've got a 16-year-old son. I think you do too.
Yep, he's just 16, I think, in 2 months. So yeah,
Okay.
we're around the same age. Yep.
But he likes to socialize with his friends online by playing games.
Right.
Like
Yeah. Yeah, they don't.
completely.
We were, go
Like
to the movies.
you
all the
had
time,
you had to
walk
go to
around the
someone
mall,
else's
yeah.
house to play Nintendo with them.
Right, right. Yeah, you can't
had to
just talk
sit
to
with
them
them.
via headset. Yeah, exactly.
Well, and for me, I mean, I was kind of joking about it earlier, but like not wanting to go see concerts,
Mhm.
mostly because, well, one, sometimes I need to give my musical mind a rest.
Mhm.
So
'Cause
going,
you're an introvert and you need to recharge the batteries.
but the truth of the matter is the biggest deterrent for me is financial.
Definitely, yeah.
Because when I was growing up, I
Yeah.
could go see Buddy Rich or
Sure.
Maynard Ferguson when
Yeah.
they would come through for like
Yeah.
15 or 20
Right, I was
bucks.
gonna say, $20,
I
yeah.
could go see.
Yep.
I remember going to see Chicago
Nice.
when they made their big comeback in the 80s,
Yeah.
and going to see that show for like $30.
Yep.
Jethro Tull, Earth, Wind and Fire.
Yep.
I never paid more than like 30 or 40 bucks to go see a show.
Yeah.
As opposed to the last time I went to see a major act.
Mhm.
It was at the Giant Center.
Mhm.
It was floor seats.
It was T
and
Swift, right?
No,
She
it
wasn't.
was actually Michael Bublé. But
Oh, nice. Okay, nice. I think I
but
might have
it-
been at that concert. Actually.
it was still, it was a few $100. And then
Yep.
like, my stepdaughter went to see Taylor Swift, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm not spending a
Yeah.
car payment to
Right.
go to a show.
Yeah.
No matter, I mean, if Michael Jackson
Mhm.
came back from the dead
Yeah.
and did a show,
Is it still worth $2,000? Or
I'm not
whatever,
going.
yeah.
I'm not paying $2,000 to go see that show.
Right.
I'll
Yeah.
I
watch
would
it.
never. I just could never. I could never.
Yeah.
I think sometimes
everything costs more now, but you're right. It almost discourages you. And I just looked up. Boyz II Men was playing at the American Music
I was
Theater.
there.
Were you there? Okay,
I was
nice.
there.
Yeah, the tickets were like $200, and I was like, oh man.
Really?
I just saw them at Ocean's Calling. I went to that music festival down in
Okay.
Ocean City, and they were by far my number one act that I saw there.
So
I wanted to see them again.
I don't
'cause
think their
they're great.
tickets were $200 a piece.
Okay.
I did not pay anywhere near that.
Okay.
But I'm going to put this out there as a disclaimer. If you're going to the American Music Theater,
Yep.
there's a fictitious ticket
I was
site.
gonna say, I bet you that's
And
what
I
it
got
was.
nailed by
resale
that.
Stuff,
It was
you know,
resale
whatever,
stuff, and
yeah.
it pops up ahead. It's a sponsored
Mhm.
thing. It shows up ahead.
Yep.
Don't be fooled
Yep.
because people will pay. They're charging you double,
Right.
if not more.
Yeah.
I went to see
That's
Tower
what
of
it was.
Power there last year,
Mhm.
and I
Did
got
they-
the ticket off of that site
Shoot.
by mistake. It
Yep.
was like $170 bucks.
Right. Yep. That's
And
probably what it
then
was.
I get there and I see that the tickets should have
Yeah,
only been like
$60.
$60
Yeah.
bucks.
Oh my gosh.
And what pissed me off worse is that I'm friends with a couple guys in the band. And
Oh,
I'm like, God,
geez.
you could at least give me a comp
Yeah,
ticket,
right,
cheap
exactly.
bastard.
Yeah, no. So fair warning: make sure you're going to the actual American Music Theater
That's fair,
website
that's
because
fair.
that type of stuff just drives me nuts.
Yeah.
It
Yep.
kills everything.
For sure.
Well, Brandon, is there anything else that you want us to know that we haven't asked you today? I'm sure there's a ton. You could probably talk all day.
Yeah, for sure. I think the one thing that comes to mind is, we have a physical Hall of Fame location.
You do now,
in
yes.
Hershey. It's in Hummelstown technically, but it's right next door to the Englewood there, which used to be the old Cocoa Beanery in Hershey,
Okay.
which is next to the Penn State Hershey Medical Center for those not familiar with the area. But yeah, there's a physical hall with plaques hanging on the wall. You
Nice.
can go read the inscriptions, learn some.
Is it kind of like a museum? Or do you have your offices in there? Or?
Yeah, I mean, there's not that crazy office
Yeah.
space or anything, but it is kind of a free walk-through museum to see relics from the past, be it stage-worn jackets or heck, we have an autographed guitar from Taylor Swift on the wall. So
Sweet.
yeah, a lot of cool stuff, and you can just go over and check it out.
Sweet.
Yeah.
We will post some links to the website and
Great.
everything else.
Yep.
Do you have any exciting plans for next year yet?
I don't know if I'm prepared to make
you
that
can't
announcement.
really
but
say probably.
What I will say is, we work a lot with the kids, and we mentioned the Youth Music Showcase, and we also did a video that we called the Central Pennsylvania Youth All-Star Band.
Mhm.
It was Baba O'Reilly. We played it at the ceremony last year, and Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend both were aware of it, and Roger Daltrey sent us a video saying he watched it and how great it was, and rock god status on Roger Daltrey for sure. And we've continued that kind of on an annual basis, and we are getting ready to put out there the next video with the Youth All-Star Band, and it is Tom Sawyer by Rush.
Oh yes.
Yes, so we're excited for that. That's coming up.
Awesome.
And we'll see. We mentioned T Swift. We have to induct her at some point, so we'll see when that happens.
Yeah, she is a part of the community.
That's right.
She
Grew up in
is.
Wyomissing, Reading area.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So the Hall of Fame has a Facebook page,
Yes.
Instagram,
Mhm.
all the things.
All things. TikTok.
Oh, you got a TikTok?
Yep.
I don't think I knew that.
You got to get on there,
I mean, we're on TikTok, but
Yep.
like I'm not one for scrolling TikTok.
Sure, yeah.
I'm part of the old people club on Facebook.
It's Facebook only, right? That's right, yeah.
So they tell me, which, I don't know.
I still think it's
That's
it's
my
the one
main
that-
form that I use.
Yeah, and to connect with fans, I don't know, maybe it's the target market or what have you, but I think Facebook is still the most popular band tool right now.
Okay.
I'd say maybe TikTok has maybe moved up above Instagram, but yes, we're on all that stuff at CPMHOF. That's the acronym Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame, at CPMHOF on all the social medias.
All right. Well, everyone.
Cool.
Brandon Valentine.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, thanks for joining us.
And don't forget his birthday.
That's right. Valentine on Valentine's Day.
Make sure you send him a happy birthday message.
Can't forget it.
Well, this has been the follow-up, and we've enjoyed having you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Katie, for letting me talk.
I know. I tried really hard. Calm her down. All right, see you next time.